Hello and welcome to another Week Ahead interview where we take a look at what news events and data releases will be shaking up currency markets this week. To discuss the movements in more detail, I'm joined down the line by Olesen, Private Wealth Manager and Partner at the Philadelphia Group. Mr. Olesen, thank you so much for joining me today. What are the main data releases you'll be looking at this week and how will they affect markets and currencies?
Sure. So, we do mainly U.S. Investing, so a lot of it's going to be around U.S. data that comes out. The big one this week for us that we're looking at is mostly on Thursday, to be honest with you, because GDP releases on Thursday, and then also the initial jobless claims for the U.S. employment picture. And they've been trending upwards close to getting close to the 400,000 level on the initial claims, and so that's our big concern, is really if that just continues to get worse, kind of what the markets are going to react to.
We saw a lift in markets after Friday's news Spain is making efforts to seek a bailout. How will this news continue to affect markets this week?
Yeah, I think this is, again, unfortunately, it's a lot of the rumor mill that goes on. A rumor comes, the markets spike, and then as you saw, the markets kind of fade out as they either don't get confirmation of it or just kind of worry about it. And I think that, we will get these short-term spikes, but I think long-term it will affect in the kind of downside of the market, just because that then just entails more inflation down the road and just kind of more worries about the economy. If more and more countries keep needing bailouts, it'll just continue to show how bad the economies are.
Apple's newest iPhone went on sale Friday. What effect has this had on shares and the markets?
Sure. So, all of those, as usual, when a new Apple product comes out, it lifts the stock significantly ahead of the actual purchases, very similar to the Spain rumors. It's the Apple, rumor. Everyone gets excited about the announcement. I think, Apple stock has been holding up very, very well. It's always worrisome when the stocks rise so quickly in such a short period of time. But their earnings, it's not an expensive company. It's actually fundamentally, it's a very inexpensive company. Unfortunately, I think people kind of jumped the boat a little early on this. I think their third quarter earnings that are coming out in the next month or so aren't going to be as good because they're not going to include the new iPhone. And so the stock is going to look expensive compared to current earnings now. Fourth quarter earnings, I think, are going to be wonderful. So I think it is long-term. I think the stock is probably a very good stock to own. And on top of that, they're a huge percent of a lot of the indices. The NASDAQ, I think it makes up 15 or 20% of the NASDAQ alone. So as long as that stock holds, those indices have a tough time really moving down.
What do you predict for the value of crude oil this week, as it's being dragged down by the strong dollar and key consumer nations' weak growth?
Sure. We think that crude oil is going to go up. The dollar has rallied in the last few months, but with the QE3, QE Infinity, whatever you want to call it, it does show just kind of how much it can be affected just by the dollar. And with QE3 and QE Infinity, that dollar is going to get a lot weaker. It just has to, just because they're printing more of them. So I think crude oil is going to be more expensive, but they can release. There's a lot of crude oil that they don't release, so they could do that just to kind of keep it flat. And growth is slowing, so I think it's probably going to hold. I don't think we're going to get a huge. I'd be shocked if it hits. Depending on what you use, Brent or whatever. I'd be shocked if we get a big 20-30% jump here, but I think we're going to stay within a 10% range of where we are right now.
Still looking at the strong dollar, this also weighed on prices of commodities, making them less attractive to buyers. What do you see for the price of gold, which has been pushed to its highest level in almost 7 months?
Yeah, so we, with the price of gold and kind of the commodities across the board, it's a very similar story to oil. They had done very well because the dollar. They've been dragged down. Commodities have been rallying because it's an inflation hedge. And everyone thinks that eventually inflation has to come in. All these commodities that we're talking about are priced in dollars. So I think that eventually they're going to do well. I do think in the short term, though, you're going to have kind of combating both the dollar getting weaker, which would help these, and then just a decline in their in the demand for them, which will bring them down. So it's kind of two forces fighting against each other. I think gold, for one, is overvalued and could see a decline just because, again, it's very similar to the Spain rumor, the iPhone, everything like that. Things rally ahead of it just on the rumor and on the worry of inflation. And then when people see, okay, that's another few years away, it'll pull back a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Olesen, for your insights and advice for our viewers. For more interviews and updates, click back to the website. But for now, take care.